Today is Friday, June 10th, 2022, and we have yet another press briefing from the National Health Commission of the People's Republic of China. Today there are 30 indigenous cases, meaning there are 30 new domestic cases of COVID-19 in the country. And just to note, indigenous cases, meaning symptomatic cases, not including asymptomatic cases, which is something to note for how China counts the number of cases that it reports. So we have 15 of these cases in the Inner Mongolia Autonomous Region, which currently appears to be facing the most significant outbreak in China, which is a change from the past few months where it was mostly Shanghai and Beijing that were facing the most significant outbreaks. And currently they are engaging anti-epidemic measures in Inner Mongolia, and specifically the city of Erenhot, where that outbreak is the worst. As is for Beijing and Shanghai, they are still facing some minor COVID outbreaks, and the central governments there are struggling to really stamp out what is left of the COVID transmission. In Shanghai specifically, we can see that there are new cases of the virus being found in the community, meaning that they are not in containment, and that how these people have come to be sick with the virus is not known, which for the government, in terms of trying to continue with its zero COVID initiative of having no new COVID cases at all, that is quite concerning. If we go to a recent article today from Reuters, we can see that in 14 of the different districts in Shanghai, mass testing will be conducted either today, Friday the 10th of June, or tomorrow, Saturday the 11th of June. This is only 10 days after the lockdown was lifted in Shanghai. And it's again because of the fact that you are having these new cases outside of containment. And the central government, again, they want to avoid what happened in April and May of 2022, of having to reimpose such significant measures. But certainly it does come seemingly as a shock. It was just on June 1st that all the lockdown restrictions were removed. But here we are a couple of days later, and we're still seeing some significant struggles in terms of containing the outbreak and restoring some semblance of normalcy to Shanghai. If we look at recent notices for Beijing, we can also see that Beijing City is suspending operations on their entertainment venues from Thursday, which was yesterday, and that was reflected in news reports today on Friday, in terms of, for example, different districts in Beijing ordering bars and other entertainment venues to close until further notice. Again, Beijing has, unlike Shanghai, been able to avoid significant lockdown restrictions, but nonetheless there have been significant business restrictions since April 2022, and that has unfortunately managed to continue now through June 2022. There was a point in the past week or so, similar to Shanghai, where the number of new cases was quite low, and it appeared as though things were looking forward and that these restrictions are a thing of the past, but here we are again. A handful of subsequent cases have been tied to bars and nightclubs, and therefore the city government has stepped in once more to intervene, making sure that they can stamp out transmission there, and that this won't require the introduction of new restrictions again, trying to restore that semblance of normalcy. And so that is the situation in mainland China on June 10th, 2022. We have 2 new cases in Liaoning province. A lot of these have been related to potential issues with the North Korean border, North Korea experiencing a very significant COVID outbreak at the moment, and it not being entirely clear, or at least publicly clear, how the virus may have gotten into this part of northern China. So for now, this is all that we can note. There are a few domestic cases of the virus. There are symptomatic cases in northern China, and assumably that is under control. if we just look at the overall epidemiological situation, though, we can see that certainly since the peak of this most recent Omicron wave, especially in Shanghai on April 15th, that the epidemic situation has certainly got much more controllable, going from a 7-day average of 26,500 cases a day now to just 186, though we can see that that has been fluctuating over the past few days, and certainly something that the central government is trying to keep under control, and this will continue to be a situation that needs to be monitored, and that, as necessary, might require further interventions from the Beijing city government and the Shanghai city government. Whether or not these measures are effective, or whether or not they just continue to prolong the situation, only time will tell.